Yo, what's crack-a-lacking, everybody? It's your boy Daily Crypto in the house. Today, we're going to be doing a crypto market update. Not doing a live trading session today. That was last week. If you missed it, you can definitely pull back onto the channel where we knocked out some trades on the screen. Today, we're just going to be giving you a BTC, Ethereum, Solana update. And if there's anyone in the chat who wants anything else analyzed, just feel free to leave it there in the comment section. Your boy will take a look at it. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Oops, wrong button there. There we go. Now I'm tiny. And you can see our BTC chart. Okay, not much development recently in price action. Cleaned up the chart from last time a little bit so that we can see some clear and definitive outlying lines. So what we were looking at here recently was a attempt to break out of this dynamic resistance. We had an attempt here where price was rejected. We saw potential for a 3-bar play, but price succumbed to the selling pressure, and sellers were able to dominate that interest back to the mid-range, not quite reaching the swing low. And then buyers attempted to bring out the troops again to try that breakout once more. But if we're looking in this area here, what we are able to see is that price attempted its breakout and found resistance on the EMAs as well. So sellers were interested in taking action along this dynamic trend line. Sellers were also interested in taking action along the EMA resistance lines, and they ended up in a very similar area, adding up to a very strong resistance, which was seller interest. So sellers, you can see here, buyers tried to push the price up, indicated by this wick. But then sellers pushed the price down, indicated by this big, strong red body. And now we have the potential for a 3-bar play to the downside. We're kind of going to wait for those 20 hours. As we can see, there's about 20 hours left on this daily candle. So we want to see what kind of range it covers before we place up entry for that 3-bar play. But it looks like there is an opportunity brewing to push down back towards the swing low. So we had 2 attempts on this breakout right here, and both were denied. Now it's up to, now we're going to see if the buyers are going to be able to bring up the price action and get that breakout successfully, or if this is going to continue breaking down from here and experiencing that resistance. Oh, excuse me, I have to cough. Glad I got that one out. All right, at least you know this is live. Also, please feel free to drop any questions, any pairs you want me to analyze in the comment section. I'll take a look at them for you. All right, and here what we're seeing, again, based on those dynamic trend lines, that's what we were looking at first, was a rejection. Now moving into some of these horizontal resistances and supports. Obviously, way up here, we have resistance above price action. This previous support has now flipped to a roll, flipped its roll into a resistance roll since it's above price now, and hasn't really been checked since this previous touch back in the 5th of March. Our previous resistance could serve as potential support if price is going to come lower. So if price can't break over this 5,200 EMA levels right here, and these end up crossing, that could signal long-term downside potential. And that's something we really wouldn't want to be involved in. That could signal something like the top is come and went. So that's really something we need to pay attention for. If price can't get back above these levels, then we're probably shifting into that bearish market. This may be the beginning of the bear. But I don't want to, make anyone too scared. I'm just trying to make everyone aware of the possibilities that may occur. Then looking into our indicators, we see our ADX doesn't really have any trend strength right now. So there's not really any momentum here. The MACD was on a bullish cross, but the signal line and the MACD line were under the histogram, under the median of the histogram. So it means that the overall trend was still not bullish. If we had a bullish cross here with the signal line and MACD line above the median, it indicates that there's a better bullish momentum existing than something like this. So technically it's still a bullish cross, but not as strong as we would want it to be in order to place a long position. So this could end up flipping to the downside. And if it flips to the downside and the signal line and the MACD line cross under the median as well, we could end up seeing some kind of downtrend strength develop. I have to clear my nose. One sec, guys. Sorry guys. I feel a little under the weather lately. The weather's actually really good now here in Texas. Super hot. I'm really enjoying it from that cold shift that we had. But I just mean feeling a little bit mucusy, congestion, all that woo and bag of chips. All right, so looking into the RSI here for BTC, we just finished up on the MACD, and then looking at the RSI, there is a little bit of bearish divergence here. It did extend out. At first, it was from these 2 points here, but now it's still connecting from these 2 points. As this is still rising and this is still descending, so there was a bit of a bearish divergence there. No bullish divergences evident just yet that are still active. We had one back here, but that one's already considered satisfied. So this is our outlook for BTC. We got resistance in this range. Basically, we're still trapped in the exact same range we have been for a few weeks now, trying to determine where the market's going to go, who's going to gain control of the push. And is it going to be buyers or sellers? That we don't know yet. The information is not very clear, but we do have the ranges where price could end up back towards a swing low or right here at this resistance. We need this breakout to confirm if we want higher price action. Otherwise, it seems like the rejection is going to be the way that the market wants to go, and then we could potentially push price down. All right, let me get that screenshot into the chat for you. Be sure to copy the link, though. You can go back and view it later, or you can just come back to the video, whatever floats your boat. All right, moving into Ethereum. And remember, guys, if you're watching this and you want me to analyze a token for you, just drop it in the comment section. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. Let's get some activity going here in the stream. All right, looking at Ethereum, we have a very similar market structure, except for notably a few things are different. Here, the 200 and the 50 EMA hasn't crossed yet, while the 50 and 200 crossed a long time ago back here. So that was indicative of long-term downward price action. Excuse me, guys. I'm just going to get a drink of water real quick. Let's just get a drink of water. Let's try and buff that out. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Make sure you stay hydrated, everybody. Health and wealth 2025. All right. So, yeah, the 50 and 200 EMA crossed back here a long time ago. So that's notably different. It is a similar falling wedge structure, but we also have multiple resistance points here. So we did have a couple of different trend lines in BTC previously. Like I had a mid-range here, but we kind of took it off after this penetration step, made it a little wobbly to read, and it ironed out down there and there. So we took out that trend line. Here we can see that there's an active trend line based on these 2 points, making a projection. This point right here and this point right here give us this trend line projection where there may be resistance in the future. But there's a more aggressive resistance line here by the first candle that penetrated. So we had a breakout attempt and then re-entry, which is why I didn't adjust that trend line, because it was failed its breakout. So we started a new trend line instead from these 2 points right here. And it gave us a strong dynamic resistance up until about right now. Actually, we see price was respecting that resistance here and attempted to break over, but is now currently trading underneath it again. So we have like several ranges within this dynamic structure. Looking at one range here, obviously one wedge, and then our other wedge here. So that's kind of like an inner and outer range. If this one gets defeated, we know we can look to come up here towards this next horizontal resistance area, which also might coincide with some EMAs and a dynamic resistance line. All right, so checking out the swing low here, price is trading right along that swing low. It's dangerously close to that price point. Looking at the swing high, we are a good distance away from that. But in order to consider any further price action, we're going to have to defeat this dynamic trend line, and of course, all these EMAs. When you're looking at BTC, there's only a little bit of EMA resistance at this point. So it's actually possible for BTC to do something and recover here. Unless it pushes down, then it's going to start to look worse, like our friend Ethereum. So Ethereum's not in a real good shape. It has lots of resistance to work its way around if it wants to continue going. Oh my gosh, excuse me, guys. To higher prices. All right. Now we're going to be looking at some of the indicators to see what is going on with them and how they are assisting us in adding to our information and our knowledge. So here we're not seeing any strength in the ADX. If there was a strong uptrend here in the ADX, we could look for that to be representative of a strong trend in the market. So here we see the ADX going up and price action going up. Here we see the ADX going up and price action going down. So this is a momentum indicator. It doesn't tell you the direction, but it does tell you how strong the momentum is in the market. And we can see there's not much momentum right now. It's above the level of 25, but it's not in a forward gaining pattern. And then we're looking at the MACD here, and it's very similar to BTC. The histogram technically is bullish, and so is the signal cross. But the bars are getting smaller, and this line has been underneath the median for a while, which is representative of the general downtrend. Here we can see the MACD line crossed underneath, and it was underneath for all this time. And then looking straight up with our eyeballs, we see that since the MACD crossed the signal line and the MACD line and the signal line crossed underneath the median at this point, we saw that general downtrend developing. So that's definitely something we need to be aware of, and not really looking to take any prominent longs until that flips back above. That's a new way to read the MACD. That's probably more helpful than you've been using it. And then right here, what's interesting is this is almost a divergence. We see they're creating equal lows here, almost forming a support level. And here, these are rising. So if we can get one of these lows to poke down below that swing low, it might actually be a good thing, because that would finish out our divergence here. So long as this RSI doesn't deviate below this point, we can still see the RSI come down more and give us opposing slopes for the price action to the RSI. That would be a bullish divergence. So that would be good if we wanted to try and attempt one of these breakouts. So that's what we're looking for on Ethereum. We can see swing low here. And if that gets penetrated on the dip, it looks like my device is going to restart outside of working hours. So yeah, Ethereum short-term ranges, we have some resistance here, 2,100. If it breaks above that, obviously the EMAs are going to be serving as resistance. And then our next level with structure is going to be upwards of 2,700. And if that swing low fails, then we could be looking to see price back down to the 1,500 range. But that'd be good. I think there'd be some buyer interest there. And it would also be good because we could see that divergence form, which is going to be a bullish divergence. So that's what we got there on Ethereum for you. Oh, look, nice. What's up with the question? We got Regina says, how long do you think ETH can go? What do you mean, how long do I think it can go? Oh, how low do you think ETH can go? Cool, yeah. So in the analysis, we just talked about, around potentially 1,500 would be the next level of buyer support. If that level isn't held, then we have other areas of support where we can look to test interest. Here was a very small area of buyer interest, which is that 1,500 range. It might be a good psychological value for people to find buyer interest. But if that's not held, then our next level of support doesn't really begin until around this area, 1,090 down towards 878. So these are the next two stops if we're looking at downside price action. That's pretty much where it could go. I'm not saying it will go that low. I'm saying that is what the analysis says. It has been in this area before. People have shown interest. People are losing interest in purchasing this asset. That's what we're seeing by the data. So if there's any buyer interest, it might be at these levels. That's all I'm saying. So that's what we're looking at there for your buyer levels for ETH. And I'll zoom out too. That way you can have some better view of those lower levels. All right. Thanks, Regina, for your question. Now we're going to be moving into Solana. We're going to take a quick look at Solana. This one is another one that is in pretty similar market structure like BTC and ETH. We have those falling wedges. And here for Solana, what we're seeing as well is another falling wedge. Except we have a little bit of a breakout here. And price is unable to get back in that structure because the structure came to a close. So what we can do now, what I'm going to do and show you how we adjust these trend lines, you can simply just move it up and have our new trend line there. and then we'll just draw it out into the future to be used as resistance. Or we can extend this one because price may use it later as support. Now that it's on the outside, we may see a bounce off of it. So we'll extend that one and kind of make it like a dotted line because it's been penetrated, a dashed line or a dotted line. And then we're going to take from our new high, drag out, and project down. I'm going to grab a drink of water so I don't cough all over the screen. Man, my horse is just, my chest is just really hoarse. You can get that phlegm out of there. All right. Thanks for sticking with me, guys, for our Solana analysis. And we're coming back to this dynamic trend line here. We made this one a dash line. We laid this one across the top. And then we're just going to extend this out to the future. And it shows us that we have a little bit more area for price to exist in a conflict. Why is price in a conflict? Because this is an area where buyers have expressed interest and sellers have expressed interest. They both cannot continue to dominate the interest at the level. Eventually, one of them has to give up. One of them will be the victor in the engagement, and they're going to push the price in a certain direction. So I'm not sure what direction it's going to be. I don't think anyone knows for certain, but the technicals say that we're seeing higher, lower highs, lower lows. The EMAs are crossed. We had the 50 cross the 200 over here as well. And these are all being used as resistance. So technically speaking, we have a strong downtrend here, and we're going to be searching out those lows to find whenever we can start reversing them. So like, for example, where's a good example? Okay, we'll go back here. Like all of these price lows were being developed at lower points consistently until finally we have some developing at higher points in which things started to turn around. So we had the highs pinching down too, and then the highs finally start to take up. So whenever things start to make higher lows and higher highs, that's where we're starting to pay attention and see if the momentum is going to change. Right now, we're not seeing any of that. So our lows are starting to come to a floor. If we can start to see them create, higher lows and then higher highs, we'll start to be able to consider turnarounds possible. But for now, any bounce up, anything that goes up is just to be considered a bounce. That's going to be pretty much true for all of these assets, except for BTC. BTC is the one right now where we're in critical condition and may be able to escape that. Not completely sold on a downtrend reversal there yet. But as far as ETH and Solana go, buddies, this is a strong technical downtrend. We got to be aware of that. Man, I'm sorry, guys. Give me one more sec. Okay. That should help us, help me, help you. All right. And moving on to our indicators here on the bottom. Same thing with the ADX here. Nothing happening. No strength, no momentum. The MACD on this one actually has crossed bearish. So we do see the signal line and the MACD line crossing. We see the histogram bearish. That bar is getting bigger. We had a little bit of a short cross here, short cross here, short cross here. So there was only a few bars on those runs, and we can see that reflected in the price action was only a small downtrend. But for now, we could expect a few more downtrending candles. Maybe a 3-bar play here is going to be a valid setup, looking to short Solana through that break of the swing low towards this dynamic trend line. But it has been supported in this area for quite some time. This was a resistance that flipped to a support, and it's been supported for a few days now. We'll see if buyers can hold the line and keep price sustained above that support level. Similar here to what we were looking at on Ethereum with the divergence, moving on to the RSI, is there was a bearish divergence here that's already in play. But right here, if price does in fact come and make a swing low that is lower than this current swing low, and the RSI does not make a low that is lower than this point right here, so if this low comes and remains a higher low from here, we'll have divergence again. So we're really counting, I'm hoping that divergence is going to come through. So, maybe the 3-bar play pushes us down tomorrow and that divergence comes to fruition, then we're going to be able to get a nice upswing, and we'll see if price can maybe reverse from there. Otherwise, we'll wait and take it by ear. But if that divergence does develop, it's going to be really, really helpful for a burst move up on Solana and Ethereum. But a little bit difference with Ethereum here is losing this swing low. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So it's totally fine for Ethereum to come down and dip here and get a check off of logical support levels. For Solana, if price breaks through the support zone, it may never recover it. So whenever we get below a certain level, maybe not until like a later point in the cycle, but it's going to flip its role and be used as resistance. So if price does end up getting into this range right here, then it's going to have to come back on that divergence jump and defeat this resistance. That's going to be a little bit difficult. And it's a little bit different than Ethereum because Ethereum's kind of floating in the middle of nowhere with no really strong interest at that level ever displayed. So it's kind of just hanging out, and it's fine if it goes down and touches that structure. That would actually make more logical sense. But here, again, we just have to be a little bit worried about losing that support zone and then not recovering it. So we'll go ahead and throw in XRP on this analysis for you today because I think that one could present us an opportunity as well. And just in case this might be the last time you ever hear from me, I wanted you to get out on some opportunities. Go out with some opportunities. So looking at sold short there, that's not a bad opportunity. But XRP is going to give us the short of a lifetime, and that might be happening very soon. So I've been watching this structure for a while. And I should have shorted from up here. I absolutely knew that I should have shorted from up here. It was just pumping up so hard. And I was like, it's at previous all-time high from another exchange. It's not shown on this exchange. But anyway, that was the previous all-time high price. And so obviously there's going to be seller interest. People that were holding this asset all this time and screaming to you guys, XRP army, they started taking profits, bro. They started dumping. They were holding this coin from sub $1. This thing ran up a crazy amount in a short amount of time. That's 500%. It's one of the greatest runs on a large market cap coin that we've had in this cycle. 500%, pretty great. A lot of other assets did well too, but this is like one of the largest cryptos by market capitalization. So it's not an easy feature to accomplish that. In any case, now we're seeing this wedge here. So I kind of drew it out a little bit to end. That's why the points don't come together. But I mean, it's all the way until the end of the month. So I usually like to extend my stuff out, a month or two ahead of time. And that way I can project into the future. So let me just go ahead and move these over as well. They're kind of short stopped there. And we can see that that's kind of another level where wicks have been below, but nothing has closed below that. So we had a wick here, wick here. Wick here, we had body touch come up, and that was technically entered and then left. And then we had a wick here, so sellers pushed it below, but buyers immediately showed interest below this level. Same thing here. Sellers tried to push below, sellers tried to push below. Sellers are getting really close to pushing below this level now. They tried it for quite some time, and that could be compared to something like BTC, where we see the wicks coming in, leaving, and buyers supporting a range. And then they lose interest in that range. So buyers could be losing interest in the XRP now. The reason they were continuing to buy here was because they felt like they missed out. Fear of missing out kicked in hard. These were definitely good technical areas to enter. Here we were also along the EMA, These were all along the EMA. So people bought here because there was still a good run up to all-time high, and they thought it could go back up. That's the same thing that happened here. It's the same thing that happened here. But now that feeling is dying out. It's been dying out in a lot of other assets in the market, like we just saw Ethereum, Solana, BTC. It's almost died out. There was a lot of interest lost, but there's still a lot of hope, which is keeping the price afloat. And there's a similar thing going on here with XRP. Now, these aren't measurable statistics. I'm just saying this is probably the sentiment of what's happening here and why buyers could lose interest at this level, because it's not creating any more new highs. So if it was continuing to create new highs and pump even back up to the swing high or previous all-time high, buyers would be more interested at that level. But again, we're losing interest at this level now of this horizontal range. We also have this dynamic range, which was presented by these two wicks, that dotted line there that I had turned into a dotted line. And remember, when we were looking at Solana, I said to kind of leave it. Sometimes you can leave intro lines because they may serve as ranges. And that's totally true. That totally exactly what I was describing happened here in XRP. So we had that primary break failure here. And then once it broke out, it stayed on the other side. So it flipped its role. It was support and it flipped into a resistance role. And that's evident by the wicks we see here pressing off of that level. And then finally, with this last trend line we have here coming from these 2 points, point B, point A, point A, point B, with the break of this trend line, we will be looking to take price down to the previous swing low. And that's kind of floating in between ranges right now already. So if this swing, this dynamic trend line is broken, which also breaks this horizontal trend line, then we're going to be target 1 is going to look for that swing low. And, our target's going to be just as follows: target 2, target 3, target 4, all the way sub $1. This motherfucking coin is going to go below $1 again. It has historically done this all the time. You don't need a bull run to get rich. You can short the market when it goes down and make money. This is something that is going to go below $1. I don't know if it's going to happen when this trend line breaks. I don't know if it's just going to drop on its face. I don't know if it's going to take some time like we saw in other cycles. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But what I do know is that this is going to go below $1 once again within the next few months. So planning your short entries, I should have got in back here. Now I want to make sure that I get an ideal entry for an actual structure break and not just floating around waiting for something to happen. So when this structure breaks, I'm jumping in. Now I'm going to try and keep my stop loss above the entry once it gets into a profitable area and just kind of chasing it, trying to take out this level, trying to take out this level, trying to take out this level. Once we get below this level here, we're Gucci, we're straight, we're all good in the hood. Right here is where there's a little bit of fear in my heart that there may be some buyer interest. Somebody's going to wick this up and try and push XRP back up. That's the only worry I have. And then it's just going to be a timing thing. We'll still try to short this again, but we may be stopped out at that point. If this swing low gets broken though, and we dip below that 200 EMA, price is going to swing down and do something like we saw here on BTC, where it comes and uses it for resistance and trades along that level, or like how it pushed down here. We had it creeping into that, then it pushed and then started to surf to the downside. So that's what I'm gonna be looking for in XRP. Short this token. Short, not right now. Whenever we get into this break here, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be shorting this token. I think it's going to be a profitable move, and it's going to be able to sustain the bear market curve, because the bear market's going, when it does come through, we have to be preparing for the bear shake. When it does occur, it's going to take about 12 months to 18 months. So you can ride this trade down all the way with some nice leverage and have it sustaining any other losses that you may incur along this time if you're not selling your bags and you're not day trading properly. XRP is going to be a great asset to short. Realistically, whenever the bear market sets in, there's a lot of money to be made from shorts, but no opportunity is as clear as XRP is to me right now, because XRP has a strong history of always going below $1 after the bull run. So I don't have any reason to believe that would be different. Anything would be different this time around. All right, so moving into some other indicators for XRP, and then we're going to wrap up shop here for the session. We can see the ADX is picking up a little bit. There's a little bit of momentum here, but it's not strong. It's not above the level of 25 that we would like to see. Obviously, when the ADX is above the level of 25, shaping up towards the 50, we have much stronger trends evident. Like here, for example, boom, very strong uptrend, just kept going. Here we have a very strong upward momentum in the ADX, and that also is represented by a strong downtrend. Remember, it shows us the momentum of the trend, not the direction. And moving into the MACD, this one's technically bearish as well, with the MACD line and signal line underneath. So the general trend is considered to be a downtrend. Looking into the RSI, what we're seeing here is higher lows as well as higher lows. So there's not really an opportunity for divergence at this time. If this price action dips lower, the RSI is going to form lower. And if it does manage to stay above here, then we'll have a divergence evident. But there's not really a strong probability that there's going to be any bullish divergences occurring here. And if we're looking here, we can see that, This is all in a row here. So we have down, up, almost horizontal. Then we have here, wherever that begins, down, down. So this is a very weak divergence here that has pushed XRP down. And if we measure this, we can see that it's come out to about 11%. It's technically already satisfied. So we wouldn't really be looking at that divergence anymore. It's already behind us. So the RSI is not giving us any new information on divergences. And it does show that it's not a terrible time to buy. We can see a lot of interest in buying activity at this level on the RSI. It actually hadn't even been below the 30 since July of 2024. So people have been very strongly interested in buying XRP. We're going to see if that interest wears out and we can short this thing to oblivion and, make Lambo in bear market. You can. You just got to be skilled. You know what I mean? Got to be able to get in at the right time, get out at the right time. All right, so that's what we got for XRP there. Let me get you a screenshot of that. It doesn't look like we have any questions or comments. I'm so glad I remembered to unmute my mic after clearing my nose, and we weren't talking silently on stream. Thanks to everyone who came out for today's stream and watched, learned a little bit about BTC, Ethereum, Solana, XRP. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to hit me up in the Discord. If you're an alpha member, you already know the deal. Ping me in the back hallways. If not, you can ping at me in the public channels, and I'll definitely get at you whenever I got a moment. Thanks again for coming out to the stream, fellas. We'll see you out.